Starry Night on the left-hand side. This is one of Vincent van Gogh's most famous paintings, and you can kind of see a little picture of it, a little sliver of it up there. And I have a bigger poster I'm going to show you too. But he painted this just from looking out his window one night. And you can kind of see the countryside, and then this big dark thing right here, that's like a big, it's called a cypress tree. It's a tall tree. So if we look at this picture, like what kind of weather do you think it was that night? Raise your hand if you have an idea. What kind of weather do you think it was? Do you think it was windy, and why do you think it was windy?
Because he like drew the
Yeah, he kind of tried to draw like, tried to draw the wind by putting in these spirals in the sky, so it kind of shows movement. Let's see what else. How can we tell, like, do you think it's during the day, or do you think it's at night? What do you think? And why do you say that? Yeah, because there's a moon in the sky. Is there anything else that tells us it's night? The stars. And there's one more thing I'm looking at. I'm thinking of, is there anything else?
The black sky, the night sky.
Yeah, the sky's really dark.
The shadows.
Yeah, there's some shadows. It's it's not a real bright picture.
The moon.
And the moon. What do you think? And it says starry night. Good. There's one thing that I always see down here are the lights on in the town. You can tell that it's nighttime because everyone's got their lights on. And that's something that you wouldn't normally see during the day. All right, let's turn to the back page and kind of read about his life a little bit. Can I have a volunteer to read to just this first dot? I think it's like 4 lines. Try to get your name, Mackenzie. Nice and loud.
Van Gogh's paintings are so popular that some of them recently sold for over $80 million. However, during his lifetime, he sold only one painting, and he was very poor.
Read to the yellow dot.
Van Gogh was a very kind and caring person. He even gave away his own food to people poorer than himself.
Yeah, so even though Van Gogh's really famous today, when he was alive, he wasn't very famous. In fact, he only sold one painting his whole entire life. So he didn't have a lot of money. But even though he didn't have a lot of money, he was still really caring. And so for those who had less than him, he still shared with them, even though, you know, he himself didn't have a lot, but he was still willing to share with those that didn't have as much as he did. Who wants to read till the second dot? How do you think?
Love many things wrote Van Gogh, and one of his 700 letters to his brother,
Theo.
Theo. Although Van Gogh suffered from mental illness and was sad most of his life, he was lucky that his brother gave him moral support and helped him
Financially.
financially.
Yeah, so Van Gogh suffered from something called depression. And it just made him like sad most of the time. But one thing that really kind of lifted his spirits, was getting letters from his brother, because his brother really supported him, and he also supported him financially, but he also like morally supported him, you know, kind of encouraged him to, you know, be a good artist. And I'll show you one picture today. He even painted the mailman, and the mailman meant a lot to him because that's who brought these letters from his brother. So I'll show you that a little bit later. Who wants to read to the third dot? What is it, Ren? Yeah, Ren.
Van Gogh decided to become an artist when he was 27 years old. He loved the beautiful Japanese prints of
Hiroshige?
Hiroshige influenced his work. He moved to Paris when he was 33 years old and met other impressionist painters such as
Gauguin and Seurat.
Gauguin and Seurat. He created over 800 paintings and 2,000 drawings in the span of only 10 years.
Yeah. So he wasn't like a teenager when he started painting, and when he decided to become an artist, he was like my age. He was like a little bit older. And so he studied with those famous painters, Gauguin and Seurat, who are two other very famous painters. And you can see here it said he created 800 paintings and 2,000 drawings. Now remember from the first line, it said he only sold one painting his whole entire life. He created over 800 of them, and he only sold one. So that's kind of incredible. But now I think, he's a lot more famous now. Let's see, who wants to read the last sentence? Can you read the last sentence? Nice and loud.
Legault left Paris and spent the last 2 years of his life in southern France, where he painted some of the most famous landscapes.
Yeah, I'm going to show you some examples. So later on in his life, he moved to France, and he kind of lived, it's kind of more like a countryside. And so a lot of his paintings reflect that kind of the landscape that he saw at the time. You'll see some with like wheat fields in them. I think he has some even that have like hay bales too. And he just kind of painted what he saw out on the countryside. So if I can have somebody come collect these. Let's see. Do you want to collect all the books for me? I'm going to start looking at some pictures. And I want you guys to kind of start thinking about like what kind of picture you want to draw. And you don't have to copy it. You can be kind of just inspired by it. So let's start, for example, let's start. Is he dead?
Yes. Oh, duh, he was born in 18.
Yeah, I think it was say, it said at the top. He lived from 1853 to 1890. So it was quite a while ago. He's still really famous. And this is one of his most famous. This is one of his most famous paintings, Starry Night. We already kind of looked at it, and we could see, like, we could tell that it was a windy night. We could tell that it was nighttime based on the moon, and the shadows, and the city down below. So, for example, if I really wanted to do this for my project, maybe I could make it like, a rainy night, or I could make it during the day, or something like that. Something just, you don't have to do it exactly like that, but I could do like the same thing, and then instead of using dark colors, I could use really bright colors, like it was daytime. He also did a lot of flowers. So these are some sunflowers that he created. So if I wanted, maybe I wanted to do a vase of flowers. I would do, maybe instead of sunflowers, I would do like roses. Or maybe I could do like a bunch of different flowers. So you can kind of see his different style. One thing I want to point out to you on the Starry Night, and you'll see this in several other of his pictures, Or maybe instead of like, this one was made in 1889, maybe you could make it like 2014 with like cars and stuff, make it more modern. And then again, you can also see how you just use lines. Let's see them on the trees. I don't know if you can see it from far away, but up in the tree, you actually just use a bunch of lines really close together. Here's another one. This one's pretty famous. I like that one. He painted his bedroom. So in this one in particular, you can really see the lines, and it looks like there's a lot of texture to it. It's pretty cool. So you could do something like this if you wanted to do your own bedroom, or maybe you wanted to do like, I don't know, like your living room, or maybe just a room that you want to bring people into. And you can kind of see here, I think this is a self-portrait of himself, so he drew himself into this picture, which is kind of cool. But you can see, you know, maybe instead of the chairs and the table, maybe if you wanted to like put in a couch or something. TV. Yeah, or like a TV, or like an Xbox or something. You could do something like that. And then on this one has several pictures from him. This is the picture of the mailman I was telling you about. He did a portrait, so you could do a portrait if there's somebody that like means a lot to you. Remember, the mailman meant a lot to Van Gogh because it was the person that brought him the letters from his brother. So if there's somebody that means a lot to you, you could do a self-portrait or a portrait of them. Here's his bedroom again. And then here's some more flowers down here. I think these are iris that he painted. So he didn't just do sunflowers, he did other flowers too. Kind of cool. And then this picture up here is when he lived in the countryside. Remember I said he kind of painted like the wheat fields and just like the landscape that he saw. So this is another option if you have, I don't know, if there's some place that you like to go around here where it has a really pretty landscape and it kind of inspires you. Here's some sketchbooks. If you're going to work on a sketch for the rest of class today, so I want you to kind of sketch an idea in your sketchbook, and then next time you can draw it on your canvas. And then also when you get your sketchbook, I want you to put your color wheel into it, and I'll turn around and I'll staple it for you. So if I can have Emily come help pass these back. And Emily, can pass these back. So for anticipating like any behavior issues in the classroom, I've learned that it's always best to keep the students engaged, and most behavior problems will arise during the downtime between like passing out supplies or transitioning from one topic to another. So for this, in this classroom, like I think there was a little bit of downtime, and I told the students that their voices should be off. And I just know from previous experience that if I allow the students to continue talking, they will just get louder and things will gradually start to spin out of control, like as far as classroom management. So it's been my experience these last few weeks that I just have to stop it before it goes any further. At the front of the classroom, I have a seating chart with all of the students' names on it. And one thing I like to do in this classroom is to call students out by name, just to make sure that they know that I know their name and I'm aware of their actions and I demand their attention. One other thing that I found that works when the classroom starts to get really loud is to say, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. By the 3rd time, everyone is paying attention, and I have everyone's attention on me, and I just go on to whatever I'm about to do. I don't try not to wait more than like a couple seconds, because I realize if I do that, it's just gonna fall apart. So that's what I do there. I just say, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. And then I just go on.
Some classroom management challenges that arose in this video. I felt like for the most part, this class was really good. I did notice that there was one point where a student was getting ready to read and students were still talking, and I said voices off, and please be respectful to the reader. Judging by the way these students act in art class, I feel like their regular classroom teacher has effective classroom management. So I think that partially contributed to the reason, but at the same time, I think it's good for me to still stop it before it gets out of control, because I feel like just because it works in their regular classroom, it may not work in the art classroom. And that's, like I said before, that's one thing that I've learned in the last couple of weeks, is that things can spiral very quickly out of control, and in order to prevent that from happening, I just have to stop it in its tracks before it goes any further. In future lessons, let's see. So in this video, I noticed there was a moment where I paused to wait for two students who were talking while I was talking. While they eventually realized I was waiting on them to stop talking, I'm not sure that was the best way to handle this particular situation, because they could have easily ignored me and continued to waste class time. So if a situation like that came up in the future, and I'm sure that it will, I might try like calling them out by name, because I've discovered that calling their name almost always grabs their attention. If that didn't work, I guess the next step I would probably say would be like, your attention needs to be up here, or your eyes are on me and your voices should be off. Maybe something along the lines of, I'm not going to ask you again. This is your last warning. Next time you'll pull a clip when you go back to your classroom. One other thing I noticed from watching this video was a student in the front that was talking while I was talking. And obviously she wasn't loud, but she still was not paying attention. And I think in the future I just need to be more aware of what the students are doing while I'm talking. Really just like just like looking over my classroom when I'm talking and making eye contact, and just making sure that everyone is staying on task.